What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you had a wonderful Christmas or whatever holiday it is that you celebrate. We are back with another double fragrance rotation, which will actually put us onto the actual day of the fragrance that I'm wearing right now, which would be Royal Tobacco on this Sunday of the second week. So as always, check the description. I'll have the days, the date, and the times that I wore the fragrance on the description, so that will be 100% accurate. We'll go ahead and get it started off, guys. One that I haven't worn in a little while, Orto Parisi Terroni. If you guys have seen my individual review of this, you already know this is a very special fragrance, at least to me. You got a nice bitter raspberry, woods, ashiness, a very unique fragrance, but also very appealing. This is a very highly complimented fragrance while also being unique. Very similar to Silver Oud, not necessarily the way it smells, even though it does have a little bit of that, ashy, woody type of smell to it, earthy type of smell, not as sweet. I don't think there's any oud in this to my knowledge, but you could almost put it in the same type of category of fragrance to where it is something that is highly complimented, but it's also a very, very type of fragrance that maybe you wouldn't necessarily expect for it to be highly complimented because it is so unique and it's not like a run-of-the-mill blue fragrance. But I love Terroni, and also people seem to really love Terroni on me. And that just makes it, in my opinion, just a 10 out of 10 fragrance. So beautiful stuff. Wore that on Monday. As you can tell, things were a little bit cooler. They got a little bit warmer. You can almost tell by the fragrances kind of how the weather went. So on Tuesday, we have Alkout from Boadicea the Victorious. Sad because it's really tough to find anymore. I haven't really seen it on a lot of places. I haven't seen it on Boadicea's webpage. Maybe they brought it back. They seem to kind of go in and out with these fragrances. But if you like fragrances that are very Middle Eastern smelling, but it also has that slight hint of maltol, which is like that burnt caramel type of smell that you get in Baccarat Rouge, Greenwich Village, Tribeca. Thankfully, this one, it's not overdone. It doesn't overpower or overshadow the fragrance. You just get a little bit of that familiar type of smell in the air with all the other spices and things that they put in this fragrance. But for me, Alkout is just an incredible, incredible fragrance from Boadicea. Very oud and wood heavy in the base, along with that maltol. And you got spices like pimento. I think it's got coriander, lavender. I mean, if you look up the ingredients on this fragrance, it's got a ton of stuff. I think it's got moss and tonka bean as well, with some woods in the base to go along with that maltol and kind of a heavy oud note in there. Unbelievably good stuff. So if you can find it, I'd recommend grabbing it. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen it anywhere on a first-hand, site like Joma Shop or something like that. I haven't seen it on Boadicea's webpage in quite a few months either. So on Wednesday, Mangonifiscent from Unique'e Luxury, newer fragrance for me. It was part of my last order, but because it was cooler out, I didn't really wear it that much, and it got a little warmer. And guys, this fragrance, if you like fragrances that make you smell like a tropical paradise without being generic, this is one of the fragrances I would highly recommend. Very juicy mango smell, as you would expect from the name, but it's got a lot more going on for it than that. It's got a lot of green notes as well. Just very balanced overall, and the dry down is excellent. You get a little bit of that hint of mango left over and a little sweetness, but it's not too one-dimensional, which is really what I enjoyed most about it. So Thursday, a little bit newer of a fragrance for me, Bond number 9 Dubai Ruby. I have Emerald on order as well, and that will complete the Dubai series for me, other than, of course, the fancy Swarovski crystal bottles. I'll maybe get some decants of those, but it's pretty clear with the amount of Swarovski crystals they put on the higher end Dubai series bottles, even though they changed the fragrances a little bit. It's pretty clear that a lot of what you're paying for is that presentation with the Swarovski crystals and things of that nature. But I might get some decants of them just because I am interested, probably just like a lot of you, if the fragrance, kind of matches up with the price tag on that. But for these, the regular Dubai series, when you can buy them at Joma Shop for, mid to low 200s, that's like a steal for me. 600 retail, I don't think it's really worth it. I don't think really paying retail for a lot of fragrances is worth it. Not all of them. Some are a little bit better than others in terms of what they deliver for the price point. But if you can get these, like I said, if they have the ones that you want at something like Joma Shop or Fragrance Net or whatever, one of those websites that sells legitimate products, Dubai series is worth it all day to me at that lower 200 price point. So with that said, Ruby, probably the most unique one of the bunch in terms of deviation. It's got a lot of floral clean notes in here. As a guy, I probably would have liked a little bit more civet and myrrh, and a little bit more base heavy because this is very floral. But I can see why they did Ruby this way, because a lot of the Dubai series, pretty much all of them in my opinion, other than Garnet and Ruby, lean masculine. So I can see why they did that with Ruby, to make them a little bit more floral and maybe have a little bit more of an appeal to women. But this still is something I wear all the time during spring and summer now that I got it. Unbelievably good floral fragrance. A little bit of fruity sweetness in there, even though they don't list any of those types of notes in the fragrance. But again, rose, geranium, just a very beautiful, clean, sweet, complex floral fragrance. Again, a little bit Middle Eastern in the dry down, but as a guy, I would like to see a little bit more of those Middle Eastern base notes in the fragrance. But also, like I said before, I can see why they didn't do that, because this is probably going to appeal mainly to women, just like Garnet. So it's like one of those things to where they kind of had to have something different for that Dubai lineup to appeal more to that feminine type of touch. So, you know, I'm still going to enjoy that fragrance and wear it a lot. I do think it could have been a little bit better with a little bit more myrrh and civet musk in the base. But again, you know, like I said, I can see why they wanted something a little bit more feminine leaning for that entire lineup. So on, what is this, Friday? Yep, Friday. Sacred Flame, much newer release from Argos. Them and Charon's Veil were the two that they released this year. Both extremely good, both very different. This one is just absolutely, in my opinion, for fall time, dressing up. Definitely a winter warmer. Has a very nice, spicy, resiny, slightly floral. I mean, it's got clove in there, pepper tree, peach, like sweet tangerine. So it almost smells like a spiced creamsicle as well, kind of going into that. Maybe like a chai tea would be another good sort of comparison to it, like a little bit of a chai tea note. Absolutely beautiful stuff, and just extremely nuclear longevity and projection. I mean, this is one of those fragrances that if you spray too heavy, people are going to let you know about it. And speaking of that, Bond number 9 Dubai Black Sapphire, relatively new from the Dubai series in terms of how I've acquired things in the order that I've acquired them. Black Sapphire and Ruby are my two newest, again with Emerald on order. And Black Sapphire just blew me away, man. I can see why people probably wouldn't like this, but with the sweet, like beeswax honey note, saffron and neroli really give it a nice kind of kick, citrus kick and floral kick. A little bit of spice with the rose in there at the top. But the main thing with this fragrance, guys, for me, is just the base notes. It's the incense and the oud that really throw this over the top. It's going to be too strong for some. I can actually see why this might be, for some people, their least favorite of the Dubai series. It's just going to be too strong for people. But if you like those types of over-the-top Middle Eastern fragrances, really kind of based around incense and oud, that's one of the best ones that you can buy, especially from the Dubai series. You know, amber is very Middle Eastern as well, but this definitely gives it a run for its money. So, rose incense on Sunday. Not a lot to be said about this fragrance other than it's incredible. Not as heavy on the rose and the florals as you would expect, but it is typical Amouage, where you get a lot of the base notes. You got, you know, frankincense, I believe a resinoid and a frankincense absolute in here. You have sandalwood, incense, rose. I mean, just an absolutely beautiful fragrance. Elemi, I think it's got some black Inca in there as well. Very complex, not overly floral. Somewhat of a masculine rose fragrance, even though I think there would be a lot of women that would enjoy this as well. But man, rose incense, it's exactly what the fragrance says. It's rose and incense focused. A lot more going on than that, but that is absolutely the base of the fragrance, and it's incredible. I wouldn't change a thing about it. So the next week, starting off Monday, I actually wore this to a family Christmas party. So many compliments on this, guys. Bond number 9 signature scent. Again, probably one of the top 3 to 5 complimented of the entire house for Bond number 9, at least for me on my skin. Dubai Gold, Riverside Drive, New Harlem, Coney Island. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, Kevin Samuels wasn't wrong. You know, you see all the Boadicea that I have, you see all the Raja perfumes, all the expensive stuff, and you know, Bond number 9 just lasts on my skin, projects well, and I always get tons of compliments on it. And even though I've slowed down buying Bond number 9 for variety's sake since I started the channel, you guys see it in my purchases. I'm still buying a lot of Bond number 9, the Dubai series especially. I'm trying to collect all those, and then I'll probably move on to trying some of their newer releases from earlier this year, like what is it, Beekman Place. Island was another one that some people really love. I think they have two newer ones as well. I don't know the names of them. One was in a kind of a gold bottle, the other was in a blue bottle. So I'll be trying those. I'll be getting some samples of those here pretty soon. But as you guys know, I've been mainly focused on the house of Boadicea the Victorious this year. And it's one of those things where I almost wish I didn't like the house of Boadicea when I first tried them, because I saw the prices and now I have like 13 or 14 fragrances from them or something like that. And this is Night of Love. I wore this on Tuesday, and even though I've only worn this fragrance maybe like 3 or 4 times, this is already one of my most complimented fragrances in my entire collection, especially if you were to count like per the amount of times that you wear it. Guys, juniper, cardamom, really just beautiful, bright, spicy, clean, slightly fruity top notes with that juniper. But really what sets it apart, in my opinion, is the tobacco and leather and the other notes in the dry down. Just very complex, unique, but also extremely pleasing, if that makes any sense. It's something I feel like, and I said this in my individual review about this as well, Night of Love is, to me, something that, you know, the most experienced fragrance connoisseurs out there would really enjoy. But it would also be something, you know, someone who may be new to niche perfumery, something of that nature, they're going to appreciate this a lot too. They're not going to find it too off-putting. It's just a very enjoyable fragrance, and it lasts and develops incredibly with the tobacco and the leather and the base, with the type of, you know, top notes and middle notes that it has. Just absolutely home run for me. One of my favorites from the house. Of course, I feel like I say that about all the Boadicea fragrances, but this one is just really a wearable compliment monster. All times of year, you know, strong enough to wear during cooler weather. For me, I personally think this will go a little bit better in warmer weather, but we'll see. You know, I'm already wearing it now when it's cooler out because it's a newer fragrance. So now on Wednesday, Xerjoff Luxor, beautiful fragrance. This was actually what I wore on Christmas because I knew I was going to be doing cigars and stuff with my dad and my brother. And it's one of those fragrances to where anytime I'm doing cigars and I know that ahead of time, I'm wearing a tobacco fragrance. You know, otherwise maybe Signature Scent or Dubai Gold or something heavy and resiny. Interlude 53 would be another one. Black Sapphire wouldn't be bad, but for the most part, if I'm doing bourbon or scotch and cigars, I'm wearing a tobacco fragrance, and it's hard to beat Luxor, man. Incense, cinnamon, definitely oud heavy as well, tobacco heavy. It's almost got like a slight cherry pipe tobacco note to it, but not overkill, and it's definitely not fruity, but it's just one of those fragrances that every time I wear it, it impresses me. Great longevity as you would expect. I think the oil concentration is nearing 30% on Luxor as well. And it's just wonderful. You know, I know a lot of people, they have it as one of their tops from the house of Xerjoff. For me, along with like maybe Ether and some of the other heavier fragrances that I tend to gravitate towards, this is definitely one of the best ones from the house of Xerjoff for me, along with some of those other fragrances. So love that stuff. Really happy I wore it on Christmas. And of course, you know, definitely got a lot of compliments on it. So Thursday, day after Christmas, newer release from Unique'e Luxury. Wonderful house, one of the best value houses in my opinion out there for your money, especially when you look at their retail prices and what you get with the packaging, the oil concentration being at 35%. This one here, very wood and leather and oud heavy as you would expect. It's called Woud and Mood, absolute. Definitely some leather in there, but it's mixed so well with the woods and stuff. Thankfully, it's not too dominant of a fragrance note. You know, I do like leather, but sometimes it can be, you know, overpowering in a fragrance. And it's nice to have hints of leather and that type of, you know, regalness and, you know, I guess you could say just structure of the fragrance. It's nice to have leather in there, but I don't like it being too dominant in a fragrance. And they did a really good job on this one of making it subtle, but not overbearing. And very long lasting, just like all Unique'e Luxury's fragrances. Very masculine. I would almost put it in the same category as like Neiman Lion from Argos, to where it is very masculine, unapologetic, and you're just gonna really have to like those types of fragrances to enjoy it. Otherwise, you know, other people may not see the value in that. But for me, definitely one of the best fragrances from the house. If you look back to my video on Unique'e Luxury, I think I had it as maybe 2 or 3 in the house. I know it was definitely top 5, but for a newer fragrance, it worked its way right up into the house, and that's for me personally because you guys know I enjoy those types of fragrances. So others, I could see why maybe they wouldn't have it so high, but for me, this is just a home run new release, very limited release. So if you're interested in that, I'd just go ahead and buy it because I don't know how much of this that they're actually making. obviously not trying to cause a panic, but I did get the feeling from talking with them at Unique'e Luxury that it wasn't going to be something that was overly mass produced, at least for the first release. I'm sure they'll keep it going, but again, I just don't know how much of that stuff they're going to be making. So on Friday, another one from the house of Boadicea the Victorious, a lot of people's favorite from the entire house of Boadicea the Victorious. This is Dasman. And Dasman, you guys saw it on my Rose and Oud video, one of the best Rose and Oud fragrances on the market in my opinion. There's a lot of good ones out there. There's so many fragrances that have the note of Rose and Oud. And it's one of those fragrances that's also easy to tone up or down some of those notes. And for Dasman, they really went all out on the Rose and Oud. There's incense in here, there's cypriol, there's a bunch of other notes, but this really is just the main structure of the fragrance. It's Rose and Oud. Little animalic slightly on the Oud, but definitely not off-putting. So if you're, maybe a little bit sensitive to that, I don't think you'd worry too much about how much Oud is in here. It's not anything like Pearl Moon or something like that, where it's very animalic, earthy, musty, all those, things that you want to throw in there when you kind of associate Oud and fragrances. This is balanced very nice. You get a good amount of Oud in there, but it's not overpowering and it's not offensive. So really wonderful stuff. Definitely one of my favorites from the house. Again, I feel like I say that with all of them from Boadicea, but they really are so different, very high quality. Love the oil concentration on them. Most of them seem to be 35 to 40% or even higher. You can really judge that when you spray it on your skin and you see how long the oil lasts on there. And once you start getting into the extracts, like from Amouage and other companies like that, where the oil is at a certain percentage, even Unique'e Luxury, it's kind of cool to compare other fragrances to that when you spray them on skin to try to guess kind of the oil concentration of what that fragrance is, even though it's obviously not 100% foolproof. It's a good indication, and that's how I know black sapphire's got to be around 30 to 40% oil concentration as well, because the oil streak on my skin lasts as long as some of the 35 to 40% fragrances in my collection that are extracts. So that's a good way to tell the quality of the fragrance. Also, if you get a really good deal on something and you're not quite sure if it's legitimate, if you haven't smelled the fragrance before, that's another good way to tell if the fragrance is real, not just by the packaging and how the fragrance smells, but how much oil is actually in the fragrance. So, especially with Boadicea, I will do another video on this, but I did get sold recently 2 fake fragrances from Boadicea the Victorious. I bought them online from someone who seemed to be a trusted seller, and they handled the situation. I got my money back, sent them back the fragrances, told them not only that they were fake, but I told them and explained why they were fake. And I haven't had that happen to me since I bought Creed Original Santel in like 2005 or 6, somewhere around then, and had to return it on eBay. And then I got the real thing a couple weeks later. But all the bottles that I bought on eBay besides that have all been real. And this was not one of those deals that seemed too good to be true from Boadicea. Those fragrances that I bought were part of the Zodiac line. They were each in the mid to high, like 400s, I believe. So it's not like I bought something on eBay that was a Boadicea Zodiac line fragrance and I paid like $150 for it expecting it to be real. It wasn't one of those things. So a little bit of common sense goes a long way when purchasing that stuff. But that is one thing, especially when you look at the higher end fragrances like the extracts, Boadicea, Unique'e Luxury. You can always tell if the fragrance is real, not just by how it smells and how it develops and how long it lasts, but go ahead and spray a little test spray on the back of your hand. If that oil disappears in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, it's not a Boadicea. It's not a Dubai, series from Bond. It's not a Unique'e Luxury. That's just, for me, as I've grown, that's one easy way to tell if you're getting duped or not. So on Saturday, we wore Argos, Birth of Venus. This is, a little bit feminine leaning, I guess, from the house, like Pallas Athene and Adonis Awakens, sure. But if you're not wearing this fragrance as a guy, you're missing out. Fruity, floral, gourmand, very well done. Extreme longevity on this fragrance as well. Great development. The fruitiness from the opening does kind of die off after about 2 to 3 hours, and then you're left with a beautiful floral, dark, salted chocolate, a little bit more masculine of a base as it dries down, which is great. That's one of those fragrances that it starts off a lot more feminine. Maybe you could call it unisex, but to me it's a little bit more feminine. and then it really starts to dry down into the middle and the base notes. It becomes a little bit more masculine. Probably one of my most, complimented fragrances from the house, besides like Triumph of Bacchus, love Triumphs Over War, which is not my personal favorite, but a lot of people seem to love that on me, and that gets a lot of compliments. And Birth of Venus is very similar, but I really actually enjoy Birth of Venus personally. It's just one of those fragrances that also gets a lot of compliments. And again, very versatile. Birth of Venus, I think I had it in one of my top 5 for wintertime from Argos, just because of that kind of dark chocolate type of note that it has in there. But this is going to go really, really great in spring or summer in the warmer weather as well, just because of those opening notes. So the fragrance I'm wearing today, which is Sunday, smoked a cigar with my dad earlier watching the Bucks game. Beat the crap out of the Panthers, by the way, which they needed to do, because if we don't win the next game against the Saints, and then Atlanta doesn't lose one, Bucks aren't going to get in the playoffs. So just as a hometown guy, even though I'm not super into NFL football, of course I want to see the home team make it to the playoffs. So that would be kind of cool. But did smoke a cigar on the porch with Royal Tobacco. Unbelievable tobacco fragrance, maybe the best in my collection. I always go back and forth between this and Tobacco Sapphire from Boadicea as some of my favorites, along with Luxor, Triumph of Bacchus. I mean, I got quite a few tobacco fragrances. Night of Love has tobacco in it, but it's not a tobacco-centered fragrance like Royal Tobacco or Tobacco Sapphire, or Boundless from Amouage is another one that I absolutely love. Beautiful tobacco fragrance. So hope you guys really enjoyed the video. Again, I'm going to leave the names of the fragrances, the days that I wore them, and the dates in the description below, so everything will be accurate. And yeah, man, we're all caught up now, so I got a lot more stuff coming for the channel. I have quite a few individual reviews of newer fragrance that I have purchased, but not had time to do individual reviews on them yet. So you'll be seeing some of those pop up soon. Before the new year, I'm going to try to get done a most complimented fragrances of like 2024. I've seen a couple of those on YouTube, so apparently I'm late to the party, or maybe I'm just in time. So I'll be getting that list together for you guys, and I will really enjoy shooting that video, but it's going to be very hard to choose, because I'm going to have to choose between the amount of compliments a fragrance has gotten, and I'm also going to have to choose between how genuine the compliments were in terms of people wanting to know the name of the fragrance, who makes it, how much it cost, and where to buy it. So for me, those will probably make the top of the list, and you also have a couple filling in that list that just get complimented quite often, but it's not quite as genuine of compliments, if that makes any sense. So be seeing you guys soon. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Enjoy your time with your family and friends going through the new year, and hopefully I'll be posting a video before New Year's. So see you guys then, all right? Bye.